Hey, Pasa party people, how's it going? Give me a shout out in the chat if my volume is coming through loud and stupendous. You guys are nuts in the chat. Could you please give me some signal that my audio is coming through good? Okay, good, good. We've had a last minute cancellation from Moshe. He has pneumonia and he's been trying to fight it off. And when you have children and they keep cycling it back to you, it's somewhat problematic. So I'm going to just do this. I'm going to do a little Q&A with you guys and go over a few of the like really big insights that I had this last week. Well, not just this last week, the last few weeks that I've been doing podcasts. Let me know in the chat if you guys have actually listened to the full podcast with Mario Garza. I think I called it Black Hole Soul. It was probably one of the more profound insights that I ever had directly within a podcast. It was pretty magnificent um, in talking about the relationship between the pole star, which is Polaris, and our local sun. And it was just like so synchronous, like had that insight recording, and then like in all the different chat groups I'm in on Telegram, there were literally so much supporting data that was like essentially confirming what I had actually what my theory was. I posted it, I posited it as a theory. So I just want to give, I'm just so enamored with Mario Garza's work and the extent at which he studies. I think the first time he and I ever did a Vibrant together, in fact, there's a Vibrant going on right now with Chance Garton's people. And yeah, I think Mario and I did a Vibrant like 2.5 years ago. Every book I said on that, he got and read, which is amazing. Like he does his homework. So I really always appreciate that. This is the first time I've ever had a chance to actually give a shout out to the people that are in the chat. We have MEF, we have California Contrarian, Marnie Rose, Christian Seppert, my main man from Nebraska, Eric Trinken, uh, the California Contrarian, Liam's in here, Liam Flanagan, Machine, my man, the machine. Awesome. It's good stuff. Thank you guys for coming out. Um, Once again, I apologize for Moshe, his sickness. I didn't want to like burden him with trying to talk so much because I want to tell you, if you haven't had a chance to listen to Alex Zek's podcast with him, Alex Zek, he runs the Way Forward in the Way Forward podcast. Go listen to the podcast with Moshe Daniel. It was 3 hours and 42 minutes. And I would say the last hour and a half was probably some of the most profound. It was the most profound discourse I've ever heard around the Jewish Jesus problem and the Jewish state problem. Moshe, with the name like Moshe, Moshe means Moses in Hebrew. And so he carries that burden. Like he's like a Jew for Jesus. And when I speak for him, I'm not speaking for him. I'm just like ad-libbing here. And the one thing I've always loved about Moshe, even though he's had a great, a very strong connection to his ethnicity and his religion as a Jew, he's open-minded. You know, he's a full-on Kabbalist. He's a full-on alchemist, and he also, in our first few discussions that we ever had back in the day when I was just talking to him about mojo cells, this is like 17, 18 years ago, he was like full-on recognized Jesus Christ as being Messiah, like being the messenger and being the answer for the Jewish people. And so what was so relevant about his conversation with Alec was he describes like how he's sort of an anathema amongst the Jewish people, especially those in his family, because he loves Jesus so much. And he can see like I named this particular stream the battery that runs the world, mainly because there's a dialectic but in the Abrahamic faiths. And the dialectic is essentially, it's sort of like Republican Democrat in the American political sphere, but in the larger world sphere, I think between Muslims, Christians, and Jews, I think that's like way over half the population of the world. And that's a massive amount of emotional energy that is run because religion controls emotions. Politics, in a lot of ways, controls emotions too. And if do yourself a favor, listen to what he describes with Alex Zek in the way forward. It is eloquent, it's beautiful, and I think it's true. It's the most mature conversation I've ever heard. Like he gets into so many other things in that conversation. It was over 3 hours. But hey, Emily's here. Yay. Yeah. Eric's here. Emily's here. Wonderful. Chris and Undestroyer is here. Awesome. Sean Rhino. Yay. Good stuff. My main man, Ethan. Ethan has been my number two guy. He's come out and really taken the reins of kind of being my understudy when it comes to the dome building. If you guys can go in the Telegram chat, I posted a photo today of, if I was more media savvy, I would actually show it up here. I don't know actually how to show photos here. I'm not that good with all this stuff just yet. Maybe if I hit present. No, it tells me to remove. Yeah, I don't know how to do all that. So, yay, Emily Moyer. Angela's here. Awesome. So, yeah, I have pictures on the Telegram of the dome that we're building. The dome's plural. We got a lot of bags laid. We probably moved, by my calculations, about 6 tons of earth today and reshaped it into a nice little cylinder that would be the tension ring for this beautiful star dome that we're putting up. And that will be the first of 3 that are linked. But I think I can honestly say it might be the world's first reciprocal truss. So it's going to be a really cool design. The crew is learning. Ethan is doing awesome. Chris is doing awesome. We got a lot of really good people that are wanting to learn and are willing to put their effort, where their mouth is. So it's awesome stuff. Let me see here. Let me post this question. Didn't Alex Zach do a collab with several other people? Yeah, he did do the end of COVID, refuting virus theory. Yeah, he is like me in a lot of ways, or I should say I'm like him. Like we don't know what contagion is, but we do uh, misbelieve what the authorities tell us. Um, so I want to get into this little code breaking that Mario and I did. In the chat, you guys give me a heads up who actually got to listen to the Mario Garza podcast with me. It was Black Hole Soul. I don't know how many of you actually listen to the podcasts. Our in all of our different platforms, we get around 12,000 eyes a week. So yeah, there we go. Emily's word salad. Now she's in the chat. Emily's everywhere. I am so looking forward to Emily and Slick Dissident doing their recording. I know they're recording Friday. I don't know when that's going to come out, but if you can support Emily Moyer, she's really one of the more original thinkers I've ever come across. Both her and Slick. That's why if they ever mated, if you had Moyer Slick dissident babies, like they would literally be, I think they would be like little shamans from the get and just be like walking through walls and like shooting arrows backwards with their toes and stuff. Like that's how crazy they would those little Moyer Slick babies would be. That'd be so cool. But yeah, their minds are on another level of pattern recognition. And I really wanted to bring up for Emily. Emily had told me a while back, like probably a couple years back, she's had all these things where when she's walking across waterways, she could see that there's a mirroring effect between, the skyscrapers or whatever apartment buildings there are in the depth of the water. And it's like you could have water that's only like a few feet deep, but you could see the depth. You could see the inverse reflection in the water. Well, I actually had this recognition with Mario Garza um, in our podcast, and it was amazing with Royal Arch Freemasonry because I was talking about essentially we were talking about the world tree, and the world tree, the symbology of the world tree is very similar to that of the circumpunct. If you've never seen the circumpunct, it's a circle with a dot in the middle. And when you look at astrology charts, the circumpunct actually represents the sun. And what we were talking about is how the sun actually is a mirror. It's a stand-in. It's a surrogate for the pole star. And so Mario has shown historically that they've taken so much of the polar symbolism away from Polaris and the accompanying 7-star constellations like Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, and they've rebranded all these different these mythos to more tropical constellations, one of which is the Pleiades. I can't even say how much the Pleiades is over uh, I guess you'd say popularized. Everybody and their brother thinks they're from Pleiades because it's literally a radionics program that's put out in the ether. But anyway, so he was showing the historical precedent that they were doing that, and it was very interesting because we're talking about how the pole star. He was saying when you circumambulate, that means walk around. Whenever you walk around something and your left shoulder is to the inside towards whatever you're walking around, this is considered centripetal, and that means the energy moves to the center. And in centripetal energy, you have a concentration and you have a rising of quality because the energy concentrates. The end result of highly accelerated centripetal energy is what we call implosion. And nature uses implosion to actually create, it uses implosion to move things very efficiently. Implosion is one of these like most amazing things. Like I've made water pumps that use no electricity, and this is a very old design. It's a 150-year-old design where it's literally a flapper valve and a spring valve just doing this on two sides of a pipe with an air bladder. And because it creates implosion, I can move water, 100 feet up in the air with no electricity. So this is one of these amazing things. That's right, Fourth Emperor. So getting back to circumambulation, when you circumambulate around, like let's say the Mecca, in that I think you're actually going clockwise. I've seen them walk around that clockwise. That's what's known as centrifugal energy. So if you're walking around and things to your right, you're actually dissipating your energy. So I've had this very interesting observation about prayer. Um, it was about 10 years ago in my life where I knew I had to get better in my prayer life. And I prayed to God, how should I pray? And he told me, he essentially showed me, he didn't tell me, I didn't see words. He had me like essentially drop to my knees at the middle of the day around the zenith of the sun. And I'd already been witnessing that the sun coming from the east, the energy had a much different quality from the sun when it was coming from the east than when it was going to the west. Because when it's coming from the east, it's coming at you. And when it's going to the west, it's going away from you, no matter where you are in the world. And that's sort of like a mystery of all mysteries. So I would feel the intensity and the sharpness of the energy in the morning. And then I'd watch around noon as the sun would be directly over me at that you could call the zenith, the solstice of the day, right? It was at its highest point. And I would notice that my shishumna, the silver cord that connects you to your creator, would open like effortlessly. And when it would open effortlessly, I could fall into gratitude. And at the time, I was a very keto guy. Like I ate a little bit. I didn't really eat all that much. And I was extremely fit, and I didn't really feel like I needed to eat. Like usually I'd have something like around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I didn't eat a lunch. But I was always working around people that would eat lunch. So it was a perfect time where I could be by myself and I could feel this like whoop, this opening. And when that would occur, I like that prayer, my prayer life just like really opened up. Like I was just like, whoa, like this is so easy, the throughput line. Because when I would pray at night, I'd usually be tired or exhausted, or like pray in the morning. Where's my coffee? Like there's like, yeah, this is all my own BS. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying what I experienced. And so I just noticed at noon, like the siesta time, I must be like part Mexican because like that energy was like, boo. And I was like, whoa, this actually has to do with the wave guide of the sun. And this is like 5 years into my celestics studies. So like I was really paying attention to the solar arc in the sky. And uh, I love these comments you guys are making. So this energy, I was like, huh, the zenith of the day, you know, prayer life is easy. And I could connect that way. Well, I was telling Mario this, and we were started talking about the Royal Arch Freemasonry, because normally in true sidereal astrology, or you could call it actually just astronomy, let's just call it astronomy, because it actually connects the names of things to the thing, which is kind of cool. In astronomy, more often than not, you have your actual summer solstice. The pinnacle of the summer solstice is usually in Cancer. And I always was wondering, like, why in Royal Arch Freemasonry was the third pillar, the hidden pillar between Joachim and Boaz. Like, when you see the free Masonic tracing board, you see ladders stepping up to the keystone. And this makes me think of like Pennsylvania and stuff like that. But you have the keystone, it's right there. And it's denoted by 6 and 9, which is the sign for Cancer, which is the yin yang, which Mario brought up. And I was like, huh, okay, so we have the summer solstice during Cancer. And in most lore, when you look into like people who look at astral bodies and stuff like that, they say there's only two wave guides really for where the soul is going. The first is the nodes of the moon. They'll just say the moon. Like when you look into lunar astrology and stuff like that, like you could tell like the nodal astrology of the moon is probably the first 4 or 5 books on astrology that I read that was actually pertinent to my life was nodal astrology. And then the next was the primary wave guide is is Cancer. Well, now I know why. It's because of the solstice. And it's because the summer solstice, if we're saying that the sun is just a surrogate of the pole star, let's say the pole star is the center for all of the plane of inertia. Its surrogate, which it has a 13-mile arc around you, is the sun that you experience. The sun that you experience is not the sun that everybody else experiences. Probably the most, like the quickest video I ever saw taken down on YouTube that had nothing to do with politics or attacking anybody. It was literally three solar scientists did like a 26-minute video where they tracked the sun in their given continent where the sun was for 1 year and fed it into a supercomputer, and they and then modeled it. It came out as like I think it was one of the sun mandalas. It could have been Tibetan or something else, but they all became they went from being, agnostic or atheistic to being men of God, all three of them. Because in their observation for a year, they saw no matter where you were in the world, the sun was personal. That's the easiest way I can put it. And that's been my experience. And it's so easy to understand once you understand what you're looking at. In this video, they gave an example, and I just did this example. I put a little short on YouTube when it came to corpuscular rays. I like to say corpulescent sun rays, but those are the sun rays that you see shooting through clouds. Like if the clouds have some breaks in them and the sun is behind it, you see these like little laser beams of light, and it's really beautiful. Like I've never met anybody that would say, oh, they don't feel like God's with them when they see the corpulescent or corpuscular rays. And so when you see that energy shooting through, what's crazy is if the model of science, of current scientism, was correct, that sun being 93 million miles away, all those rays would come through those holes evenly, and all the light rays would be parallel. But none of us experience that. Yeah, that's right, Annette. The lens to our personal reality. That's exactly right. It's the magnifying lens of our personal reality. It's a big thing. So these rays of light that are shooting through, you'll see that they're all at like different angles, but they're consistent from one point behind. In trigonometry, like if you have an astrolabe, you can like literally see the declination of where the source of light is. It's just like the source of light is like local. So these scientists saw that, and they also saw like if you have one person on one side of a lake and another person on another side of a lake, and the sun on one of the sides looks like it's shooting the corpuscular rays at them, and the person on the other side, it looks like the corpuscular rays are shooting at them. It's like it's a trick of God's hologram, I'll say, because this is God's hologram. All hologram means is a fractal representation of condensed light into an image and likeness. So guess what? God made us in his image and likeness, and he made us out of light. And when you condense light, it just turns into hydrogen. And hydrogen in all of its varying forms is every other element. So it actually gets kind of simple when you look at it that way. So getting back to Mario and I, the light, right? So you have these rays, and these corpuscular rays tell you that the sun is local, but it is a surrogate for the center. So it is the center relative to your axis mundi. So each one of us has our own little universe of perception. It's not our own universe, it's our universe of perception. And that universe of perception is usually spherical. Very sensitive people know the fringes of their sphere. unsensitive people do not know the edges of their sphere. They feel like their body is the edge of them, like their skin is their boundary layer. And that's just not true. this your energy goes, depending on who you are, depending on your capacities, your field goes out quite a ways. And your field will interrupt other things. Your field can influence other things, but that's another discussion for another time. So our axis mundi, our the that line that goes up, the sun is essentially our light bearer. It is our Messiah of God. it is Jesus Christ. It is the light and life giver. Like it shines on the forgiven and the unforgiven. Like it does not care. It's always giving. And that energy is there, and it comes at you from the east and it leaves you going to the west. It's very simple. Well, this is, like I said, a surrogate to the pole star. And the pole star is incredible. It's considered divine because everything revolves around, well, I shouldn't say everything. That's incorrect. The fixed stars revolve around the center. So if anything revolves around the center or has an orientation to the center, it's considered divine because the center is the throughput line. That's the line that connects all the realms, all the heavens, everything. And like I said earlier, when I pray at midday at the zenith of the sun, it's so easy for that connection to go to the center because the sun is acting as a surrogate for the pole star. So now we get back to Mount Meru. We get back to the world tree. So Cancer, right? Cancer is usually the hottest time of the year. It usually gets a little bit hotter in August, into Leo, because Leo is so extroverted and annoying. But that energy is just coming and coming and coming, right? But it's really most intense when it initiates in Cancer. And the solstice is the longest day of the year, the summer solstice. And that energy, the zenith, is actually when our attention, because it's hot, right? That means the energy at that point in time is centrifugal. I had the full notion as soon as Mario said, like I saw the whole thing. He gave me a symbol of the yin yang sign inside of a crab, and I saw roots. I immediately saw roots to a tree, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!" In this existence, the people that have co-opted the energy, who have offered for us to go into these social abstractions, they inverted when you should be centripetal and when you should be centrifugal. So during the summer when it's hot, think about it. When energy is going out, which is centrifugal, that should be heat. That's kinetic dispersion, right? That's when it's hot. That's actually when, if there was, like, for lack of a better term, that's when people should be more materially oriented because it's a dissipation of your energy. It's like the actual, it's the culmination of like just the full release of like, okay, everything in this world and like the exaltation of material things. And then going around to the winter solstice, at least in North America, that's usually the most materialistic time of year. That's when people are like trying to buy gifts and wondering what they're going to get. And kids are taught to like want all these toys and all this like superfluous stuff that makes no difference. Well, that's the opposite. That's actually the centripetal spin. That's the spin where you're actually circumambulating counterclockwise. That's the concentration. That is the coalescence. That is the quality that is condensing and creating a cooling effect. Because you guys want to know something is when something actually implodes, it cools down. So not only is implosion a more powerful reaction given the same volume, like say you had a cylinder that's the size of this cup, right? And if there's a piston in here that goes up and down because of explosion, right? Given the same volume with the same fuel, if that was to implode, you get 40 times the power given the same volume. Like that's amazing, right? So what the people that actually the people that actually oh, that's a good comment. The people that have offered us these social constructs, they've given us the winter time, this winter solstice, as a way to like completely discharge our energy when it shouldn't be discharged. That at that time, the energy in us should be concentrated. Um, I don't know if you guys remember, and some of you might be new, about, I don't know, I think it was like maybe 10 months ago, I started with Sherman's The New Calendar. And that new calendar is based on light. And I found it so cool because the calendar shows that there's 5 seasons. And if any of you know that I actually build domes that are based on pentagons, and these domes are amazing. They're the best geometry I've come across. And I'm kind of infatuated with the pentagon encoding the phi ratio and understanding what the phi ratio is. So I switched my own personal, I guess you would say, private schedule to run on Tom Sherman's calendar, which is all based on 5 seasons. There's 5 seasons of 72 days, and that gives you 360 days. And within that season, there's a day right in the middle of the 72, so 36 and 36, where there's an extra day, and that's the day out of time. And I love that notion because when you line that up with other things in the world, it lines up perfectly to the solstices, and I think not the equinoxes, but the solstices, a bunch of things dealing with hunting. Like the hunters I know, like there's early hunting season, there's later hunting season. Like this light schedule is exactly connected to the hunting schedule, and that means that's what nature is on. That's what the animals are following. Our human schedule is like kind of it's replete with mistakes. We just did this what is it, we we fell back with the daylight saving time. Now it's like 4 o'clock and it's dark outside. It's like it's idiotic. So the timing schedule that we've been given is not the best for us. And so I really like this particular calendar. Look up the new calendar. It's I believe it's Tom Sherman, and get yourself one because it's $20 and you'll have it for life. Like the calendar never changes, so it's really cool. But the coolest thing about the calendar, when you have it in hand, you can see the light cycles depending on your latitude or longitude, which I really appreciate. So I'm getting to the point where it's like, okay, on the winter solstice, it should be complete pure meditation and prayer of gratitude towards the creator. Because the correlate with the sun relative, if you're in the northern hemisphere, the sun is the lowest in the sky at that time, right? It's closest to the horizon, to Horus. It's closest, it's down low, right? And so you should be low. You should be in prayer. Your head should be close to the ground. You know, like that's where you should be. And that energy will loop and it will concentrate for you because there's a beautiful thing when you biomimic. like when you actually show nature and you signal nature that you know how it's actually working, um, and you have gratitude for it, man, it it gives you an infinite amount of more of signaling if you're open to it. Um, so the unnatural inversion in the first place is the actually going outward during the winter and going inward during the summer. That's the inversion. Um, like it, I don't know, in the summertime, like a lot of people, like I'm from Florida in the summertime, like when it gets super hot outside, people are inside in air conditioning. Things are kind of opposite, but it's more about like where you're giving your attention to from a materials perspective. If you were to be materialistic, the best time would be during the summer solstice when the energy is already centrifugal, it's already going out. Um, Now I know there's a bunch of people that are in the chat that are in the southern hemisphere, um, and with that, I think Liam is from down under. I know Marnie Rose is from down under. Um, I've never seen the sky from down there. I have yet to actually. Actually have not had the opportunity to like experience the energetics of um, being, you know, on the opposite side of the hemiplane. Um, so I can't really speak on that. But as a internal hemiplane, northern hemiplane person, I find that the energetics of what I'm talking about are pretty cool. And so getting back to what Emily said, Emily is like, you have this body of water, you have a reflection, and whatever they build up, you see down. And I saw that exactly with the world tree. It's actually during the winter solstice, the world tree is reaching up and it's touching the pole star. So that's why it's so easy for you to actually lock in your joy and your gratitude then. And in the summer, the energy is diffuse and out and in the ground. And then that's the time to be more materialistic during the summer solstice. So that was my little insight into how the light works during the year. Like who's to say like what these names are that we have of like different times of the year are just like, going on this new calendar, I'm not even going by names of things. Like I'm not even like I use Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with the people I work with, but like in my own life, it's like none of that's necessary. And I will say this too, if you go 6 days on of like really, I would say exerting energy into the world for whatever it is you're trying to accomplish, and then take 3 days where you concentrate, where the energy drops back into your own being and your family, man, can the world change very, very fast. Remember, if you're on the frequency of everyone else, just doing the beats of what everybody else is doing, even if you have different ideas about what you're doing, you're still on the same beat. And there's something to be said about actually, changing your rhythm. Even like I said, even if it's an internal thing only in within your private life, but you're on your own rhythm, you're not syncopated to what the world thinks, and it's almost like the world doesn't matter. And to a lesser extent, when I lived in the tropics, I mean, there were times I'd even look at a calendar, unless I had to like, go get my visa renewed or something like, you know, I think the calendar, like the Gregorian calendar, is very, very overrated. Yes, Jen, like a Sabbath. The 3 days off is like a Sabbath. So the 369, you've heard me talk to Slick Dissident about 369 a bunch. Nikola Tesla was like really famous for saying understanding 369, Marco Rodin with his vortex mathematics showing the 369. I thought it was just cool that this particular calendar, because if you think about it, calendars are a map for time. This particular calendar for me resonates because I build the same shape that it's using all the time. And I think because of that, because I've given it 10 months, maybe even a little bit longer, I don't remember. It's 9 or 10 months, let's say. And I am like actually connected. Like, I don't need an external authority to tell me that. Like, I am connected because I've given time and attention to it. And if you ask, God gives. Like, that's just what it does. So, um, ooh, interesting coincidence. I was thinking a fasting cycle of six eating, 3 days off. Oh, that's cool. You would one hour, six glass one. I don't know how to say that. That's a really cool thing. Yeah, I would give that whirl and see how that works for you. I know at 3 day a 3 day fast for a man. If you're a man, I would presume this is a man speaking. 3 day fast is when you really start to see some real benefits. I know that. Um, yeah, but a lot of people fasting. That's awesome. Oh yeah, let's see this. So it's hard to be materialistic when you're centrifugal. What? That's awesome, Liam. Dude, that is a dad joke. That's awesome. It's really funny. Hourglass 1.61. What? 1.614. We're getting to some. This is fun. Um, yeah, so I had a fun time talking with Mario. Check that out. You guys can tell me if you enjoyed it, if you listened to it. Always like if you can share it, all that type of stuff helps me. I don't pay for any advertisement. I don't pay to go on anybody's big podcast. They boost my numbers or anything. So if you guys enjoy the pod, just share it. Like if you share it, that like is awesome. That should be a big boost for other people getting the gravy. Man, I'm trying to think. Oh, I got bumped, just so you all know. I got bumped by the Jason Brashears clan pretty hard. It kind of sucked because I was on vacation and I like essentially, you know, created a whole day because I was supposed to be on with them at 2 o'clock Eastern, and I never got a call that day. They had another guest on, a guest that I actually like a lot. But like his producer never got back to me, his moderators never got back to me. I mean, they literally just didn't say, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like I even sent them like forwards of the emails of like when they scheduled it and like asking me for my headshot and all the rest of it, and it was just gone. Like nobody's talking to me from them. So this has happened to me in the past, especially when I'm really, really on the scent of a whether or not a person is authentically living from their own experience or they're just kind of like doing the book thing, right? Like externalizing authority. And there's many a teacher I have sought out. Like any other podcaster will tell you that's been on my pod, I reach out to anybody that I feel that I respect. I reach out to them immediately, tell them how I respect them, what it is that they're doing, what I would like to learn more from, and I just reach out. And I've always done this. This is what started my friendship with Moshe. I went to his webpage back in the day talking about mojo cells, and I instantly emailed him and just struck up a conversation. Like I have no problem doing that. My wife is very happy because she's an introvert, and I'm not. Like I have no problem like actually like reaching out to people, especially if I appreciate them. And um, yeah, Liam, that was totally gay. I know. Uh, so wait, oh no, I've been excited to have you on. Okay. Um, so I've there have been certain teachers that you pay a lot of money to, and they talk a really good game, and you're really really earnest with them, and then they're not being earnest. They're not being forthright, and the earnest person will always scare the shit out of the person who is not. Now, I give Jason his flowers. He's building an excellent business model. Um, he's got tons of people that are rabid fans, and more power to you. I've just watched in my life when that thing happens and that level of like unprofessionalism, the unprofessionalism thing shows something. Now I mess up with my podcast all the time and messaging people and or like missing appointments and stuff like that. I'm always highly apologetic. I do my best to bend over backwards to reschedule. I do all the things. And there was none of that. I just got ghosted. None of his mods. Like he had like three or four of his mods, in the different chats that I'm in, and they're all gone. Nope. So it's obvious that they got the word. Don't interact with this dude. And I think it's because um, I don't think what he's saying is true. A lot of the things that he references, he takes out of context. He uses a lot of crazy mathematical stretches to try and prove his point. And you can't say that history is a lie agreed upon and then use historical reference points of the time of the people that you say are lying to prove your point. Like you could like that does not make any sense. So you're like, they're liars and we don't know when exactly we are, and here's the chronicon, and in the same thing it's like, but I know exactly every 138 years there's a phoenix event. It's just like, maybe. But anyway, more power to him. But that's just one less thing I have to pay attention to, so that makes me very happy. um I'm going to be doing a interview for Marty Leeds next week. On I don't even know what he calls. It's the Gnostic Academy Church of Jesus Christ. It's the coolest yurch around. We call it a yurch because he has a yurt church, and so I helped build that. It's a lot of fun. Oh, Greenstone Bear in the house. It could be your link to being buds with Longo. Ah, that's true. That's a good point, Greenstone Bear. Um, That's right. Longo really has a disdain for that dude. And so does Marty. Like a lot of my friends do. But like I don't care, like I've talked to many of people I don't fully agree with. Like, who was it that said it? Pythagoras? Like it's no mark of a learned man to not be able to speak to somebody he doesn't agree with. Like no one's perfect. Um what I don't like is just how rude they were. They literally ghosted me, so that's just rude. Um, I really try not to be that rude, unless they're like a construction apprentice, and then I just point my finger at them all day. I'm like, super. I just point down at them. For those of you who see me on a construction site, you'll get a kick out of that. Um, Yeah, I understand he's a registered sex offender and stuff like that. Once again, his story is like he didn't sexually assault the woman, and he took her to the cops, and I don't know the whole story. I'm going on what he presents online, watching his growth. I knew going on his platform would have been very good for my numbers, and that's just that's just the way it is. Like, and he said some very profound things that I really appreciate. I don't need to be his best bud. I don't need to know what he did 30 years ago. Like, none of that. I'm a grown ass man. Like, I don't need to, like, you know, like, have an over idealized picture of somebody to be able to interact with them. I've interacted with tons of criminals. Like, who gives a shit? As long as they have respect for me and I have respect for them, we're cool. If somebody goes like totally rude and like breaks an agreement and all the rest of that, then it's on them. There's a great movie. What was it called? Um, oh, it was with Robert De Niro. It's about 1961 Brooklyn, and there's this great line about there's this kid. He's a teenager, and he's all roughed up, like he wants to get in a fight with this guy who owes him money. And his male mentor grabs him. He's like, "See, what are you doing? See?" He's like, "That guy owes me $20." And he goes, "$20?" It's like, "Yeah, $20." He goes, "So you're saying you never have to see him again for $20?" He's like, "Yeah, man." He goes, "That's a good deal." And I love that. That is so true. I think it's called Brooklyn Tale. Oh man, I wish I remember the name of that movie. It was so good. But that's the way I feel. Like when people show their hand like that to me, I'm like, oh, clean. I no longer have to deal with it. Um, I've never seen a bad Topher. Well, Vince Long, I really appreciate that. That's really sweet. Um, yeah, my man, an Undestroyer. He sees me pointing all the time on the work. I'm just like, get to work. Rawr. Um, so yeah, we're doing some really fun stuff. My new neighbor, he is a boiler man. He works for a company that installs like massive heating boilers and elements all around the country. And so he's going to up my rocket mass heating game. And that's a lot of fun. So, my house that I'm in now, this house that you see behind me, this is like a renovation special. We're renovating this house and we're changing it from a 2-1 very dilapidated cabin into a 3-2 that can essentially support a family. Then we have my new neighbors. Hopefully, they'll start popping out babies. That's who we're building the domes for. And then we're going to build our house up on the hill. And that's going to be a big cupcake house. Like the silhouette of it will be a cupcake. And yeah, we're going to use all the tech. And so my new neighbor, we're playing around. He got a rocket mass heater. I have a rocket mass heater. And we're working on how to like essentially extract every joule of energy from our rocket mass heaters and really have that like be something that keeps us warm, warms water, cooks, produces electricity. Um, those particular units won't make biochar or syngas, but I'm making other units that have that. My trip to Kentucky was cool because I was able to come across 4 stainless steel barrels. They are not cheap, but those stainless steel barrels mixed with my up pipes, with the new stainless steel up pipes, those are something that will last a really long time. So that's an exciting development for us here to be able to do that and produce a really high quality product. I don't know how many of those we'll be able to make though, because I'm telling you, like to buy a brand new stainless steel 40-gallon uh, lockable lid that seals barrel, it's like $600 new. I'm getting them used if you consider my travel for $350 a piece. So I'm getting a really good deal. And I'll eventually make the whole unit out of stainless steel, and then I'll use refractory cement at the base, refractory aircrete cement, and like have these like great thermal mass units where when we make biochar, we can actually extract all the syngas from it, and that will be pretty awesome. So I'm excited about that. Ooh, candle chimney. I like that idea. What is a candle chimney hypnotic rhythm? I'm wondering what that is. So there's a bunch of things in development here. Um, I'm really appreciating having a bunch of guys that are taking the time to travel here and learn the trade. A bunch of them had taken my course at the Barataria Times National Festival, which was awesome, and now they want to make it an occupation. The good thing is that um, there's a lot of demand for these products. So it's really neat. I'm excited. And as we build more in the States, like that demand will just grow because there's nothing like it. Like even today, the guys are laying the bags down, and you have these beautiful circular lines and stuff like that. It's just like it's so much better than squares than boxes. Let's. I'm going to take some questions and then I'll get out of here. Have you had any luck harnessing energy from the domes or other geometry in buildings? When you say energy, energy is an ambiguous term. What do you mean energy? Harold the Escapist. So your chimney on top. Okay, this is the question. Your chimney on top of your cupcake house. Oh yeah, yeah. That would look like a candle. But of course, I can't put the chimney in the dead center. Uh, my rocket mass heaters will be off to the side towards the perimeter of the wall. The dead center of the house will have a cupola. So it's more like think of like a cupcake with, you know, how they had those like little umbrellas like in cocktails. Imagine a cupcake that has one of those little umbrella things right in the middle, and then you got it. Annette, I'd love to join your crew and learn F. Learn what's F. Well, the thing is, and this is my sexist part of me, is that it's very hard work. It's heavy. It's really heavy. Like I said, today we moved between 6 and 7 tons of material and shaped it. I'm somebody that was a professional athlete. I can push myself. I am very hard on the men that are around me. And I've noticed in life that if you're hard around women, women and men are built differently. And now the men that I'm hard on, I'm not hard on them because I'm trying to be a dick. I'm just like, let's get it going. Let's get the pace going. Let's get some work done. Like, let's go. This is not one of these things where it's like, oh, let's just like go slow. And the problem is women are just weaker. It's just the way it is. So maybe for like art elements, like my ex-wife, when I would build, she would do some earthworks inside, like sculptures and stuff that the clients valued a lot. And I think that's a great value add to construction. But like in the thick of construction, it's not for women. At least not this type of construction. Like we're moving a lot of weight. And there's cutting of metal and metal grinders and all this stuff. It's just like, man, it's not a place for women. Okay, so Harold went ahead and elaborated. I'm not an expert, but energy, I mean usable current, for example, to power technology in the building. No, I haven't done that because I haven't had a budget to do that. I have a hypothesis of how to turn the earth bags that we do into an actual usable earth battery, but it would take a lot of energy, money, and design to actually do it because I would have to have essentially one continuous coil between the bags, which takes a lot of planning to do. As the majority of the buildings I'm in right now building, you wouldn't be able to do a continuous coil. But if I could design a building that only had one door and I could do a coil that I could insulate from everything else, we could have a good amount of juice, because a lot of times the earth batteries have a lot to do with the mass that's around the coil that you put in the ground. Yes, Michael McAllister, I know you want to have us build back in Costa Rica. Um, I'm more than likely not going to be there to do that. But you never know. You never know. So, fourth emperor, let's see. My buddy tore both his shoulders doing concrete work. It's some tough shit moving that kind of weight all day and every day. Yeah, and I'm not saying that women can't do it. It's just like it's just gonna be slow. Like women can do anything a man can do, but they're gonna do it much slower. It's just the way it is. Like I have my best friend, his daughter plays college soccer. She's the fastest girl on her team, and she literally runs a 5:0:40 dash. That's slow as balls. Like I was slow in soccer and I ran a 4:8. On my team, we had guys that ran a 4:4 or 4:3. Like it's just like women, you guys aren't built like we are. Like it's a different thing. It's and I'm very mannish on the site. On the site, it's like I'm yelling, I'm barking out orders, I'm getting people who aren't hustling to hustle. Like I don't fuck around. There's no patty cake or anything like that. Not projecting that women need that, but I've seen in many instances when I have been more stern with women, they take it personally. You can't take shit personally on a construction site. All right, I moved 8,000 pounds of dirt, 2 loads a day by myself for a project of 30,000 pounds of concrete another week. Good man. You got some muscles. And this is so true, Liam. Today, you know what I yelled out the most? I yelled out one of my guys got concrete on his legs like I did last week. And we both got concrete on our leg at the same day. I've been peeing on myself religiously and not washing it off. This guy did it once and then he washed it off 10 minutes later. And I almost smacked him. I was like, what are you doing? And it's not like this guy is like the pinnacle of health. It's not like he's somebody that you would even like. It was like, dude, you've got to, like, if you're gonna do this, do it right. Like, and it pissed me off because he was slow and lazy at work. And I'm like, if you would have done what I did, I have all this skin on my leg. Why don't you have the skin on your leg? I have the skin on my leg because I pee on it. Oh yeah, definitely. Yes, I have thought of an indoor pool with inverted egg shape, and it's not really inverted. This is actually how I started making domes. Was the domes themselves that I first started making were the beehive domes, but the beehive dome is male, and the beehive dome is the pointy part of the egg. So you put that part in the ground, and the hemisphere dome, which is what I build now, is female, and that's what you have in the sky. So that creates the loop current of energy that Victor Schauberger talked about. It's incredible. It adds like up to a 10-kilometer radius of your property. You'll imbue fertility if you do that. It's an awesome thing to do. And it doesn't have to be big. It could be something that's maybe, you know, 2 feet wide, at its circumference. Is there any gravy for us? Quick lime as a mortar for building? I hear it's a lost art. It is a lost art, and it's something I completely worked with for good 14 years. I find lime has everything to do with how well it's been slaked. The slaked means soaked. So If you get what they call Cal Vivo, which is, I believe, quicklime. I don't know because it is all from Central America. That usually isn't fired at a high enough temperature to be really reactive. So I found that it took a couple years of soaking the powder in, like, you get one of these big barrels, plastic barrels, and you pour in a little bit of lime, and you'd have your water in there, and you just stir it. And every couple of days, you add more lime, and you just stir it, stir it, stir it. And after a couple of years, it gets super, super sticky in your hand. It feels very plasticky. It almost feels like clay, but it burns. It's like very caustic. It's more caustic than cement. And then once it gets to that feeling where it's that super sticky and it gives you a chemical burn, then I would say don't use sand. Don't use something that's silica based. Get something that's known as rock powder or rock dust. And when you mix that in with the quicklime, you end up coming up with these mortars that are really, really strong. And then I would say at that point, if you've been all natural up to that point, because most of the time that use quicklime, they're trying to be ultra natural. At that point, that's when you want to use a hydrocarbon. Once that thing sets up really good, there are certain sealants out there that breathe. You use one of those sealants that breathe, and that will really make your mortar super strong. Um, the problem is a lot of people will seal anything that has quicklime in it or just regular lime that's been slaked. They'll seal it with something that stops the chemical reaction because it won't let it breathe. And when you do that, the lime dies. It cracks, it breaks, it gets really brittle. And a lot of the quicklime, yeah, a lot of the quicklime uh, art is in knowing how reactive your lime is and mixing it with non-silica based things like rock powder. It works really great. Works really great. Yeah, piss me off. Cog would be proud of that pun. It's so true. I get totally pissed off. I get really pissed off when people ask me advice and I give it to them and I have an answer for their problem and then they fuck off with it. Like that drives me nuts. I just want to beat them to death. That's why I like charging people a lot of money because I know if I charge them a lot of money, they'll fucking do it. Every time I tell somebody of anything importance and and I don't charge them for it, it's like they, they fuck off with it, and it's so annoying. Um, all right, guys, it looks like there's no more questions. Okay, so can you fuse copper or other tech in the dome building? Yeah, all of that, of course. I mean, every state capitol you see is a dome. You can do anything if you have the budget. This is what I tell my clients. I'm like, hey, yeah, we could do that. Do you have the money for it? It's all about like everything I've bootstrapped, right? So it's not like I have this like endless budget to do these things. Um, I pay for what I can afford. You could definitely do all this. All you have to do is look at every Capitol building in the United States. MEF, what is your name? MEF, and you said you're at the equator. Where on the equator are you? Can you say a bit about the title of this video? What is the battery? That's what I was bringing up earlier with Moshe. Is the battery of it was a play on the economic battery of the world. Uh, the economic battery of the world is war, and I think in my description I used the term Abrahamic dialectic. The Abrahamic dialectic is the battery of war, the battery of the world. So that's what I was talking about. Ecuador. I almost moved to Ecuador until I found out about all the land scams. It's very beautiful down there. Oh yeah. NASA does electroculture with gold-plated satellites. I have to say, the first person that turned me on to electroculture and magnetite was a contracted scientist for NASA, and he was a very learned alchemist. So they do hire some good people. Um, all right, guys, it looks like we have slowed down. We're down to 62 eyes. Thanks for coming out once again. Send Moshe some love. Have him heal up quick so we can have a good amount of people come out to next week if he's feeling better. I have a full slate. Like I'm recording this Friday again. Monday, I'm going to be releasing the pod with Fiona Gardner. Go check out Fiona Gardner on Instagram. For those of you that are listening to this that don't do Instagram, um, or but have the app, go on the Instagram, check out Fiona Gardner. Um, she's the dark field microscopist for the Biggleson brothers. They're the ones that read the holograms in the blood. She's reading holograms and light codes in the urine. Awesome stuff. I was blown away by our interview. That's what I'm putting out Monday. And then with all the flooding that we got here in Missouri with this crazy rain that we had over a 48-hour period of time, uh, I did an interview with Hamilton Northern Outpost. They're the ones that are reseeding the Savannah. And so I'm going to put that out. Those two are very timely podcasts to put out with like current events. So it's really, really good stuff. Guys, thank you for coming out. I really appreciate it. And oh, by the way, I am selling t-shirts. Um, hit me up on Instagram. My Instagram feed, let me see here. Yeah, the Instagram feed is the Biocharisma Podcast chat. Uh, oh yeah. Chris in Undestroyer, he put up the calendar that I was talking about, the Tom Sherman calendar. I love that thing. It's so good. Um, we have, how many people do we have in the chat? We have like 950 people in the chat. It's such a good time, guys. Join the chat. If you want, give me a shout out on Telegram or email me at info@topherhq for t-shirts. I have the new logo, like this logo that you see up here at the right-hand corner up here. That logo on a much higher quality shirt. It's front and back. They're black shirts, and I have all sizes. I have small, medium, large. They're wonderful shirts. They fit much better. They're just a much higher product quality. I'm selling those shirts for $25 a piece, and I think I have like 30 of them. So yeah, if you want one, just hit me up. If you want to give them as a gift, for Black Friday, Biochar Friday. That's such a nerd. Oh, I can make myself laugh. That's right. We're rebranding everything. Biochar Friday. I have a Biochar Friday sale. Um, which meaning I'm not reducing the price at all. It's like literally close to my cost. So um, go ahead and get some shirts. I will mail those to you at my convenience. And that will help support the stream. If you feel like supporting me with buying me a coffee, buy me a coffee. Those links are, in all my podcasts and all that stuff. PayPal, it's coraldomes at gmail.com, all that good stuff. And yeah, like I said, share my pod. That's what I want from you. So you all have a no fire sale, Tanya. I don't appreciate that. Tanya McRoberts. It's not. Or are you making a pun about fire? I think you're making a pun. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you soon. End stream.